Good morning and happy Monday. We're back with a great show to kick off the week. Robbie, who do we have?
Trita Parsi discusses whether or not President Biden has lost interest in rejoining the Iran nuclear deal. And journalist Glenn Greenwald discusses the abhorrent practice of experimenting on beagle puppies and why Dr. Fauci and the NIH are under fire for recent dog testing. You won't want to miss that. Stick with us for it. Plus, Team Rising will weigh in on Democrats' latest efforts to amend the filibuster.
But first, White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci made the rounds on cable news yesterday. Fauci answered questions from ABC's George Stephanopoulos, who pressed Fauci on the extent of the NIH-funded bat coronavirus research in Wuhan, following the bombshell letter to Congress, which was forced, I would add, by The Intercept's reporting, about EcoHealth's inability to report their findings about bat coronavirus spike proteins on time to the NIH. Senator Rand Paul sat down with Axios in response to the letter and called on Biden to remove Fauci from his post. Let's watch.
We have brand new news today, that says that the NIH is now admitting that there was gain-of-function research there, and he lied about it.
This is a letter from the National Institutes of Health to Congress, and it acknowledges funding research in Wuhan that you and Dr. Fauci had gone at it about.
Right. And so in the letter, they acknowledge that, yes, the viruses did gain in function. They became more dangerous. So they've created a virus that doesn't exist in nature. It's become more dangerous. That is gain of function. Well, he should be fired. I mean, the thing is,
Dr. Fauci should be fired.
Absolutely.
By the president.
Absolutely. The thing is just for lack of judgment, if nothing else. He's probably never going to admit that he lied. He's going to continue to dissemble and try to work around the truth and massage the truth.
Now, here's Fauci's response to Senator Paul from his interview with George Stephanopoulos.
Well, I obviously totally disagree with Senator Paul. He's absolutely incorrect. Neither I nor Dr. Francis Collins, the director of the NIH, lied or misled about what we've done. There's all of this concern about what's gain of function or what's not, with the implication that research led to SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19, which, George, unequivocally, anybody that knows anything about viral biology and phylogeny of viruses know that it is molecularly impossible for those viruses that were worked on to turn into SARS-CoV-2.
Oh, well, I'm so put at ease knowing that it's impossible that the research they were doing, the experimentation on dangerous, deadly viruses behind closed doors with very little oversight, that they've lied about even funding in the first place. But no, it's impossible.
And notice the rhetorical device that's going on here. He's taking one claim, and instead of addressing it head on, he does this. Lots of people, what's gain of function, what's not gain of function, with the implication. And that's his rhetorical move. So when he says with the implication, then he moves the question over to something else. And that question is, did this particular experiment lead directly to the pandemic? And he says that's molecularly impossible. Now, there are plenty of experts, almost every expert The Intercept has talked to has said that's correct. Like this particular experiment, there's no reason to think, and there's every reason to think it didn't lead to the pandemic. But that skips right over this whole rhetorical move that he made to get out of answering the earlier question, which is, did you fund gain of function research?
Right.
And the answer is yes. He doesn't. That's why he wants to say, well, some people are wondering what it is. Now, we only know about this because of the lawsuit that The Intercept had to file in order to extract this information, which was in their kind of grant annual review that they had finally belatedly, after several years, updated. You don't put every single thing that you do every single day into your annual grant review. So we just don't know what else they did. We do now know that they were doing gain-of-function research.
Yeah, and we don't know what else they were doing. We don't know, if they reported every single thing that they were doing. We don't know if someone could have gone rogue. Someone could have gotten curious about something else. It's just it's ridiculous to say, and they lied about the extent of it.
Right. So if we now know that you were doing gain-of-function research, like how are we certain that you weren't doing some other experiment?
Fauci wants to define it in some narrow sense as only this thing, and maybe we didn't do this exact thing, but it's a semantics battle.
Maybe we did do that thing, but we didn't really do it on purpose, and we didn't know about it. until much later. Well, none of that is our concern. Like, we want to know, are we all living through this hellscape because of something that you funded in this lab? That's what people want to know, and that's the question that he doesn't want to answer. He wants to do everything he can to get around it, and I'm not a huge fan of agreeing with Rand Paul, but
he nailed this one.
He did nail this, and he's like, he's going to dissemble, he's going to bounce around the question. I actually had, and I've said on this show multiple times, I thought he should have been fired around the mask lying. Like once, and you could say, if people forget this, he said early on, don't wear masks. Masks don't help. And then he said later, oh, I was lying about that. Masks do help, but I didn't want people to go out and hoard all the masks. He was worried about
human behavior. And he said that what he thought that the threshold for herd immunity would be, and then he later said that I said a lower number because I didn't think you the American people were ready for the truth.
Right.
So he's already admitted that he's practiced in telling lies that he thinks are for the greater good. Maybe you could easily argue, and government officials telling lies for quote unquote the greater good always find a way to make sure the greater good includes covering for their own misbehavior. So of course you could see how lying for the greater good could include, according to Dr. Fauci's own thinking, downplaying the extent of the U.S. government, the health bureaucracy's involvement in creating something like this.
But it erodes your credibility.
Right.
And so even if you needed to do it, and your lie was a noble one, you've sacrificed your credibility for the good of the country. Okay, good for you. But somebody else has to be in there who still has credibility. Yeah. So I was driving down the highway once with my girlfriend, now wife, and the front left wheel literally fell off, just starts bouncing away. So I'm now driving on 3 wheels, and I'm going like 60, well over 60 miles an hour. I'm trying to get into the shoulder, and my girlfriend's like, everything okay over there? She didn't see the wheel fly off. Like, yeah, it's fine. It's good. We're good. As I eased it over into the shoulder. That was a lie.
That's the noble lie.
And I think it was a noble lie.
Yeah.
Because it all worked out. But the next time she's like, everything okay over there while I'm driving? She's going to wonder if I'm telling the truth or not. Right. Now, I'm not going to resign from my position.
Right. If there's a spider crawling on me, I want the noble. What's that? No, it's fine.
Nothing.
Don't worry. Let me get that for you.
Don't worry. Yeah. Don't worry. It's definitely not a tarantula with half of its teeth sunk into your shoulder.
Probably Dr. Fauci created that too in some lab.
in some Chinese lab. So, but that's the point. Noble lie, fine. I'm not saying you're a bad person. But we're saying that you've admitted you've lied multiple times, and now you're caught in this third one. And so if the job of a public health official is to speak with credibility to the American public, you need somebody in there who still has credibility.
Yep, absolutely.
Unless you just want to make the whole thing a partisan game.
Which they do.
Maybe we'll just do that. So one more piece of news we wanted to bring you this morning. Executives at Pfizer and Moderna will not license their mRNA vaccines to developing countries, claiming that it's not feasible for some countries to manufacture COVID vaccines. So sad. But according to research from the New York Times, 10 companies in Africa, Asia, and South America are able to produce these gold standard shots. And so this is a claim they've been making for weeks or months, actually, that we can't release the patent, we can't share our recipe for these vaccines because, these dumb hicks around the world just don't, they wouldn't be able to make it, which never made sense because if that's true, there's no risk to your bottom line. Give them the recipe.
Right.
If they can't make it. So it was obvious from the very beginning that this was a lie, rooted in some weird, colonialist, perceptions of these countries as incapable, when really they know that they're capable of it. That's why they don't want to share it, because then it cuts into their ability to become these to make these massive multi-billion-dollar profits.
That might very well be true. I guess my only counterpoint to that is I read this New York Times story and I looked at they had this little chart for, this is the company that will be able to produce it here. And I guess I just don't trust necessarily that the New York Times knows that like, no, we assure you, we the New York Times, this place in this country would be able to produce it no problem. Well, how do you know that? I'm not persuaded.
They successfully make a lot of generics in India, if
some of them would be, but the chart had like the political situation in this country. We're giving it a 2 stars out of 5, good enough to.
Yes, okay,
I don't know. It seemed a little colonialist in its own way.
Yes, the New York Times is not necessarily going to be the one that's going to equalize that situation. That's for sure.
Coming up next, we'll tell you what's on our radar. Stay with us.